Coming up on 2.5 Geeks, we've got lots to talk about. The iPhone 5S, a full review, all the stuff that happened with AMD in Hawaii, the Surface 2, and more.
The bar has been set wicked fast. It rocked in the benchmarks. We're going to up the ante a little bit.
Processing power, I kind of understand this. Welcome back to 2.5 Geeks. I'm Ayaz Akhtar alongside Marco Chiappetta and Dave Altavilla. Let's check how these gentlemen are doing. Let's check with Marco first. How are you doing after your globe hopping and globe trotting adventures?
I am doing great. I am freshly back from Hawaii, and I think I'm over my jet lag. Just had a nice dinner with my family, so I am good to go.
How about you, Dave? Staying in the Northeast, I assume, for the past couple of days?
I've been in the Northeast, and I haven't been dancing with hula girls like Marco has.
I have.
Yes, he did. It's true. It's an internet meme now too. We're gonna make them like LOL cats. But I'm doing okay. Other than that,
that sounds terrifying. That there's a meme of that. I'm sure there is, and if there isn't, there will be a picture of it by the end of the episode by someone.
No,
I'm sure.
there won't.
Yes.
Remember that when you see this episode available at HotHardware.com in the comments section, we would love to see the meme of Marco hulaing. Hula-ing? How do you say that? That's hard to say for me.
hula dancing.
You know, I'm from the world of tech. Maybe I don't know how to say hula, but I do know how to say iPhone 5S full review at Hot Hardware. Dave, you guys looked through this new flagship phone. What did you find out?
iPhone 5S full review. Those are some big words. And Apple made a big announcement. And, mildly impressed, certainly with the internals. A little bit left flat also in terms of general features. But you're talking about really a platform update in an internal core processing and engine update more than anything in this device here. Obviously, you're still stuck with that 4-inch display, the Retina display, which, is a beautiful display, but still just 4 inches when plenty of 4.5 and 4.7-inch phones and 5-inch phones or phablets, whatever you want to call them, are on the market now. I have a Galaxy S4 myself, and that's a 5-inch phone, and I can't go back now that I'm used to that kind of screen size. But some other nice additions, certainly the fingerprint reader, replacing the home button on the front of the device, an updated camera, 8-megapixel camera with wider aperture lens for a little bit higher fidelity photography there for sure, and a new 64-bit OS to go with the 64-bit A7 processor under the hood. So some nice updates. Still felt a little lacking to us in spots, to be honest.
Okay, so it's not exactly the newest. I mean, it's the newest Apple device, but I'm pretty sure the review said it's the best iPhone that's ever come out so far. But you're still sticking to the fact that it's a tiny, tiny phone. Performance-wise, how did it do? Because the S used to stand for speed. That's what happened with the 3G and the 3GS. Was this much more speedy?
Yeah, absolutely. It was much faster than the iPhone 5 and certainly the iPhone 4 and 4S before it. I wouldn't want to say it's tiny. I mean, let's face it. There are plenty of folks where a 4-inch phone is plenty of screen. We just certainly we're spoiled here at Hot Hardware, and we're used to these larger devices. When you compare it to the likes of a Galaxy S3 or a Galaxy S4 or an HTC One, it's just a much smaller device. And I think a lot of Apple fans, folks that are currently on the iPhone platform, really were hoping for that larger screen. If they just brought that larger screen out, it would have been like, dang, this thing's fast and it's got a bigger screen. So they would have really hit both, I guess, key points that I think the Apple consumer and marketplace was looking for. But to answer your question, I derailed a little bit there. It is faster. It's in some applications, it's as little as only maybe 30% faster. But we also saw performance metrics where it was twice as fast as an iPhone 5, and certainly the fastest smartphone platform on the market currently. Now, that's not necessarily or in some cases, it is a result of that 64-bit processor and 64-bit OS. 64-bit architecture in general provides more memory address space. Okay, so when you get up above the 4 gig limit, that's traditionally what we're used to, that 64-bit advantage on the desktop and on the notebook side of things. Here in a phone architecture, you've got some other advantages that come to play with 64-bit. It's only got 1 gig of RAM, so you're not talking about memory address space in the iPhone 5S. That's just not a benefit for it. So you don't have any additional memory addressing. What you do have is certainly some advantages in things like encryption processing, image handling. These are higher bandwidth applications where they do make use of additional instruction set, 64-bit instruction set, and additional registers, extension of registers in a 64-bit architecture. So yes, markedly faster, twice as fast in some cases, or 2x the performance easily and more of an iPhone 5. Again, just if we had that larger screen, if we had a few more major updates, it would have felt like a home run. But Apple, I think, honestly, if you've got an iPhone 5, my personal opinion is sit tight. iPhone 6 is going to be the major update you're looking for with the same performance and engine on board that did so well in our benchmarks.
Yeah, it seems like they're using that Intel TikTok method of here's the upgrade, everything looks the same. The big ballyhoo is still about the 5C with its colors, which is not exactly a huge deal at all when it comes to performance or anything other than, oh, look, it looks new. I'm more interested in the 5S because it's faster. But the 6, I think you're right. It's going to be the larger one. It's going to be faster. It's going to be everything that everyone wants. And then everyone will say, this is boring because the Android phones are pretty freaking awesome.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at here. I mean, honestly, do I feel ever, and I've got a Galaxy S4 active, that's currently my personal phone. Do I feel ever like my phone could be faster? Right now, no, I don't. Are there some use cases and applications down the road that I'll probably wish I had some additional horsepower for? Sure. But right now, that phone's pretty darn snappy. And so, games and all of that good stuff that are optimized for handset and mobile right now, they're taking advantage of the existing architecture, whether it be a 32-bit quad core that's in my Galaxy device or, Apple's dual-core 64-bit A7 in the iOS world. It's a nice upgrade now, and as performance enthusiasts, we applaud it. Certainly, 64-bit is a major step and a platform move for Apple. Is it the reason to go out and get an iPhone? I don't know. I personally, if you're an iPhone 5 owner already, I'd say hang tight for a little bit.
Okay, so we've got Apple doing that stuff. But while that's going on, while you guys have that full review at HotHardware.com, I know Marco, and we were talking about this, him hulaing, because I believe, Marco, you were at AMD's event in Hawaii, and they just basically let out all kinds of news. What's the top stories out of AMD?
So yeah, they let out a ton of news. They basically flew in tech press from around the world to announce their latest family of graphics processors. The top of the line, the GPU was codenamed Hawaii, hence having the event out there. So most of the really juicy stuff is still under embargo. Unfortunately, all of the tech specs, speeds and feeds, model numbers, prices, I have to keep that under wraps. However, each day that I was out there, they had AMD had different briefings, different events that I attended, and it sort of started in the very beginning with just a quick speech from, and I apologize because I'm going to pronounce the last name incorrectly, almost definitely. The first day we had a briefing with Raja Kaduri, formerly of AMD, then Apple, and then 5 months ago came back to AMD. And he basically spoke on the reasons why he came back to a company that, if you ask anyone in our community, AMD seems to be in deep trouble, both financially and in terms of tech. It seems to be a company in trouble. Why would he leave Apple and come back to AMD? And his reasons were fairly simple. The first one, he missed the people. He said the people at AMD were great to him. He missed working with them and wanted to be back in sort of that culture and environment. And secondly, he said he has a deep appreciation and confidence in AMD's IP and what they're going to be bringing forth in the future. So that was, interesting to hear. He sort of dismissed some of the doom and gloom, said the future looks bright for AMD. So if you had questions about the company moving forward, according to Raja, we don't have to worry. And according to some of the tech I've seen, it does look pretty good. And that was the gist of day one. Sort of, here's why I'm here. Here's why we're going to kick some butt, and we hope you like it.
So while some of the hardware stuff's under embargo, what about hardware announcements? I know I've seen a whole bunch. What can you tell us about hardware?
So there's a whole bunch of hardware coming. On the live cast that AMD held while I was out there, they did reveal model numbers for a whole bunch of cards. So first of all, the naming convention changes. Previous gen was Radeon HD and then a model number. So now AMD is ditching the HD because basically everything can handle HD video or HD resolutions now. The new model numbers have an R series. So you'll see Radeon R7 and a model number, or Radeon R9 and then a model number. So of course the higher R value is a higher generation, a higher performing generation of product, and the preceding 3-digit model number will designate the performance level of the product in that category. So while there, they talked about the R7 250, which will be the new entry sort of mid-range GPU. The R7 260X, 270X, and 280X, the R9 is the 270X and R9 280X. I'm already messing up the names. And the flagship is going to be the R9 290X. So as you go up in model number, you go up in performance. I can't reveal speeds and feeds just yet, but that's going to be the gist. Now, along with the new model numbers and naming, some of the new products also feature a new feature called True Audio. There is an audio DSP on board some of the cards, and it will allow game engines to offload certain audio functions for higher quality sound in games. Now, this may sound like sort of a gimmick, and hey, why is anybody going to use it if it's proprietary to AMD? Blah blah blah. However, some of the most popular tools for editing audio in the game developer space, as long as you have the latest version, which has the hardware accelerated DLLs incorporated, the game devs don't have to do anything new. The software is going to say, hey, okay, this True Audio hardware is available, use it. Otherwise, it won't use it. So it seems like AMD making a move to not only advance graphics, which obviously are very important for games, but to enhance audio as well, which anybody who's watched a movie in a home theater knows that the better the audio, the more immersive the experience is.
So there's also some stuff on the software side from AMD. Now, what I was reading, it seems like AMD is trying to make the PC more like a console, which kind of confuses me.
Yeah, so you're exactly right. There are two software-related announcements that we can talk about now. One was AMD and Raptor, releasing let me make sure I get this name right, the AMD Gaming Evolved app powered by Raptor, and AMD's Mantle graphics API. So I'll start with the Gaming Evolved app. Anyone that's used GeForce Experience sort of will get the gist of what the Gaming Evolved app does. It's a small tool that's leveraging Raptor's existing audience. If you use that chat tool from Raptor, it's leveraging their existing user base, polling their hardware, polling their game settings, and they've basically amassed a huge database of optimal settings for, as of right now, they're supporting 20 games, but more games should be coming weekly. Now, the way the app works is if you have the app installed on your machine, it will scan for supported games. And if you're not using the optimal settings for your hardware, it will automatically configure the game for you. So you have a choice. You can configure the game for optimal performance or optimal image quality or a blend of both. And now that's sort of important. You sort of think, enthusiasts, they know their settings. They're going to go in, they're going to tweak their games, make sure they're getting, the best of everything. But I think that's a much smaller percentage of enthusiasts. A lot of gamers will buy a game, install it, and run it, and maybe not tunnel deeply into the graphics settings. So maybe they're not fully taking advantage of their hardware because they're using default settings, or maybe the default settings are too high for their hardware and they're getting a crappy experience. So these apps are sort of designed to use a large pool of information about performance and settings for most popular games and configure them automatically for gamers. And just to go back to your question, to make it more console-like, you know, if you have a console, you buy a game, you pop in the disc, you run it. You don't have to mess with anything. The PC is much more complicated. So the goal of the app is to eliminate some of that complication. Does that sound clear?
Yeah, well, before I whisk us away to Microsoft's latest product.
Wait.
Else about AMD before we
okay,
whisk
sorry,
away?
yes.
We're not whisking away yet.
I thought
One more
you were
thing.
gonna, what was that?
And one more
Said,
thing.
but wait, there's more.
Yes, there is more. And this is either going to be a huge deal going forward or not mean much moving forward. AMD Mantle is a new API being co-developed by DICE, you know, the makers of the Frostbite engine, games like Battlefield 4, and AMD. Now, Mantle, if you remember way back to something like 3D Effects and Glide, Mantle is a proprietary API for AMD Radeon graphics cards that lets game developers sort of code much closer to the metal. Now, what that means is it sort of strips away a lot of the layers associated with DirectX and OpenGL under Windows and allows devs to expose more features of the GPU, have more draw calls per second because there's a lot less overhead. Now, the impetus for Mantle is sort of to leverage the next-gen consoles, their design wins in the next-gen consoles. Xbox One's got an AMD GPU, PS4's got an AMD GPU, and those game devs are already writing closer to the metal for consoles. So Mantle is designed to leverage those design wins and also allow game devs to actually more easily port games from the consoles to the PC. Now, porting games is already going to be easier because both next-gen consoles are x86, but Mantle adds, you know, an extra wrinkle where they can port to the PC and already have higher performance and better GPU utilization than, say, if they went from the console port to DirectX. Now, with that said, NVIDIA won't have Mantle, so everybody's going to have to code to DirectX 11 anyway, or whatever version of DirectX anyway. So I don't know. We'll see. Now, if it was some no-name game dev that AMD sort of, you know, shuttled in from Siberia to say, hey, I'm using Mantle, maybe I'd be more negative on it. But they had EA and DICE there showing off some cool stuff. Battlefield 4 is going to have a Mantle patch in December. Off the record, I'm hearing other game devs are also going to embrace Mantle, so I'm not sure how this one's going to play out. It could mean a significant advantage for AMD moving forward in terms of gaming performance.
So it sounds
Yeah,
like
I get a good vibe from that announcement.
it sounds like gaming's going to be a little easier for casual, I guess console gamers really, if they move to the PC. A lot of weird gaming news going on between Valve and now this is going to get easier for PCs. So let's see how that works out. But there's also Microsoft. You know, they're a company still kicking around, you know, kind of important and making Washington State a lot of money, that kind of thing. Surface 2 announcement just happened last week. There's two pieces of hardware, tons of accessories. Dave, what do we got?
Right, yeah. Surface 2 actually was down in New York last week and was at the Surface event, and they unveiled Surface 2 and Surface Pro 2. The Surface RT or Windows RT, Surface RT follow-on, Windows RT 8.1 operating system for the Surface 2, and the Surface Pro 2 is the full Windows 8 slate. On the Surface 2, it's driven by NVIDIA's Tegra 4, which is a very powerful ARM-based SoC. And on the Surface Pro 2, it is driven by a full Intel Haswell processor on board, dual-core Core i5 Haswell processor. So both tablets, very powerful. Both tablets engineered for a full Microsoft experience, and I think that was one of the key takeaways that speaker, corporate VP Panos Panay, corporate VP of Surface, he kept beating the drum on was that it's taking these products take full advantage of the Microsoft ecosystem and the Microsoft Windows experience, from Skype to SkyDrive to Office to the Windows Store, and we can talk a little bit more about that. But mildly impressed, actually very impressed in spots. Sort of will be intriguing to see how these tablets roll out and how they compete. But I can tell you, just from a sort of punch list, whether it be specs and features, sort of point of view versus other solutions in the market, they look pretty darn competitive.
Microsoft also introduced a bunch of accessories, new blade. They're calling them blades now, which I think is kind of a reused name for another thing Microsoft's got. But these blades that attach to the Surface Pro and the Surface 2, Surface Pro 2 and the Surface 2, and they're supposed to allow things like musical things or there's new touch covers, all kinds of weirdness. And there's a dock now for the Pro 2. Well, I'm just jumbling everything. Dave, make sense of it.
Yeah, there's a dock for the Surface Pro 2, which basically, very much like, a standard notebook dock. You would just take your Surface Pro 2, snap it into the dock, you get a full keyboard and mouse, sort of desktop experience like you do, like in the old days when folks used to have the dock in the office and the notebook to take on the road, that kind of thing. And there's certainly some utility there. And there's also two new type and touch covers to go with the tablets as accessories. The nice thing about the touch cover 2 is that it's got a much higher resolution membrane key switch behind it. So there's more points of contact beyond just the individual keys themselves. And so what it actually does is it makes your keystrokes more accurate. So let's say you fat finger in between a couple of different keys, it actually interprets what key you were trying to press and corrects it for you. And so your typing accuracy actually improves, which is probably pretty darn handy on one of these chiclet-sized keyboards. And I actually messed around with it a little bit, and it did seem, in fact, that I made fewer errors. But I need a little bit more time with that to judge the full utility. I only saw, got a few minutes of hands-on time at the event. What's really interesting about these products, and I penned an article, Time to Cut Microsoft Some Slack, Surface 2 shows they understand mobile. What's really interesting to me, beyond some of the whiz-bang, things like the keyboards, and yeah, they have I forget the name of the project, but there's actually a mixing pad where you can, it's not a standard keypad. It attaches to the Surface, and you can mix music and do different things, drum beats and whatnot with it. It's a pretty cool looking product that'll be coming out. But what's really interesting to me here is that Microsoft does seem to be getting it. It's not, here's our tablet, here's Windows RT, it's got its own app store, Windows Store, deal with it. Now it's we have this product called Skype. It's integrated well with our webcam, which is, by the way, a 3.5 megapixel front-facing camera that handles very well in low light. And they did a demo where they dimmed the house lights, and Panos just stood there and recorded a video chat message to his daughter. And like the house lights were almost dark, and this guy's face was still perfectly lit, and it wasn't grainy. And so now you're talking about calling upon, the Skype acquisition and a tightly coupled app with the camera. So good stuff there. They added on for Surface 2, actually for Surface Pro 2 as well, 200 gigs of SkyDrive storage for 2 years. Okay, free for 2 years. So that's pretty darn good as well. Normally you get some trials, or maybe, in the case of Apple, you get maybe 5 gigs of space, some meager sort of, hey, try it, see if you like it offering, and then sign up and buy more. No, they're giving you 200 gigs of space. That's serious notebook hard drive size of storage space there. And so, and then the other thing we're getting now is that there's scuttlebutt and actual, not even scuttlebutt. Microsoft has come right out and said, we intend to drive towards getting a single Windows Store for all devices, whether it be a Windows 8, standard full-up Windows 8 machine, Windows RT, what have you, Windows Phone, all a single common store model. And so they're not there yet. Okay, the execs have been talking about this, off to the side, in meetings and in different press events. I think it's coming, and I think it's coming quickly. And I think if you look at, especially, a device like the Surface 2, where you're talking about a 32 gig tablet now for $449, okay? It sounds expensive. It's a 10.6 inch slate. It's got Tegra 4, which is a very fast SoC. We did a full review on that. It's one of the fastest ARM quad-core processors on the market currently right now. Very good for gaming. $449 for that. You get 200 gigs of SkyDrive. You get a year of free unlimited U.S. calling on Skype, as well as unlimited access to Skype Wi-Fi hotspots for a year, okay, for the first year, free, all bundled in. And so, Microsoft is really starting to get this, hey, we've got some critical mass here with some of these other acquisitions and other entities of Microsoft, whether it be Skype or SkyDrive. And then, Xbox, okay, the whole Xbox platform is being sort of brought into the fold as well, where now they demoed Halo Spartan Assault on the Surface 2, and maybe a common Windows Live or Xbox Live, excuse me, sort of app and or exchange where there's some integration there as well. There's some pretty good critical mass coming together here for Microsoft, I think.
Marco, you got any thoughts on Microsoft's latest moves?
Yeah, two quick things. First, I agree with basically everything Dave said. The Surface 2 and Surface 2 Pro, they both look really nice. Just anecdotally, I brought the original Surface with me out to Hawaii, and my flights from the East Coast to Honolulu going was just over 11 hours, and coming home 9.5 hours. I played 9 movies on that device without charging it. I swear I'm telling the truth. 9 HD movies I played on that thing without a charge.
Was this the Pro or the RT?
No, the original Surface RT,
okay.
The original with the Tegra 3. So the brightness was way down on the screen because the plane was dark. But yeah, I only used 20% of battery going out for playing 5 movies, and like another 15% coming home playing another 4. So that was pretty impressive. The other thing that strikes me as really good timing, the dock for the Surface Pro 2 is happening when support for XP is going away for a few months, and with Windows 8.1 and lots of the fixes that Microsoft incorporated, I think lots of the corporate IT world would be hot for a Surface Pro 2 with the dock and all of the latest software features, and that's such a beautiful form factor. I can see this being one of the impetuses, if that's a word, for the corporate world to embrace Windows 8.1. Just a thought that popped into my head when I saw it.
What I want is a mini Surface Pro. That's what I want. A smaller version of that with a big dock so I can make it a real desktop. I'm betting this is going to be the next version. I heard a rumor of a Surface Mini in 2014, but that might be ARM-powered. And
right. Yeah, I think it is.
I really want a well-built 8-inch Intel machine, but I'm sure other companies are trying to make that happen, but they seem to be underpowered right now, but we'll see how that goes. I just want the promise of the UMPC to be true, okay? I'm still holding out hope for that. Anyway, if you're curious about any of the stories we talked about, check out HotHardware.com, because surprise, surprise, again, everything we talked about, would you believe was at HotHardware.com? And if it's not, it'll probably get there like in a couple seconds. Right, Marco?
Yes, that's true.
Yeah, we'll upload it.
So instead of making you guys go through the rigmarole of going through the social networks, I'll just go ahead and do it this time. You guys ready for that? You guys can take a little
sure.
breather. All right.
I'm tired.
All right. So yeah, if you want to get quick, great headlines, go to twitter.com/hothardware for Hot Hardware content. Also facebook.com/hothardware. There's Google Plus. Just do a search for Hot Hardware. It's still no vanity URL, Dave?
No, not yet, but I think we're getting closer. They're handing them out kind of piecemeal now.
So if you go over to YouTube, try out youtube.com/hothardwarevids for all kinds of glorious video goodness and clean up comments thanks to the new Google Plus. So things should change a bit. So if you're looking at YouTube right now and you're looking below and you're seeing a civil conversation, something strange, isn't it? Weird. Weird. But then again, you can go to hothardware.com where you have intelligent conversations in the chats. Not the chats, sorry, in the comments. I'm going to say forums. How are the forums over there?
The forums are pretty good. We got attacked by spammers this week, nasty boys, but or girls, I guess perhaps. But yes, you can comment all over the site, forums, in the news posts, and the articles. We just love to hear from you.
Nasty, nasty spammers. So this show is not for you. But I guess we should thank everybody for watching. What else?
I just realized I went to Hawaii and didn't eat any spam. What an idiot. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Now, don't forget, we want to see Marco hula-ing, and we'll show those next episode.
You don't want to see it.
It's true.
It's beautiful.
Thanks for stopping by, folks.